I'll be seeing you in all the old familiar places that this heart of mine embraces all day through. In that small cafe, the park across the way, the children's carousel, the chestnut trees, the wishing well. I'll be seeing you in every lovely summer's day, in everything that's light and gay. I'll always think of you that way.
I'll find you in the morning sun, and when the night is new,
I'll be looking at the moon, but I'll be seeing you.
I see you in that small cafe, the park across the way, the children's carousel, the chestnut trees, the wishing well.
I'll be seeing you in every lovely summer's day, in everything that's light and gay. I'll always think of you that way. I'll find you in the morning sun, and when the night is new, I'll be looking at the moon, but I'll be seeing you.
I'll be seeing you, I'll be seeing you.
Smile, though your heart is aching. Smile, even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you'll get by if you smile. Through your fear and sorrow, smile, and maybe tomorrow you'll see the sun come shining through for you. Light up your face with gladness, hide every trace of sadness, although a tear may be ever so near. That's the time you must keep on trying. Smile, what's the use of crying? You'll find that life is still worthwhile if you just smile.
Though your heart is aching, smile even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you'll get by.
If you smile through your fear and sorrow, smile, and maybe tomorrow you'll see the sun come shining through for you. Light up your face with gladness,
Smile,
hide every trace of sadness, although a tear may be ever so near. That's the time You must keep on trying, smile. What's the use of crying? You find that life.
And I never thought I'd feel this way. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm glad I got the chance to say that I do believe I love you. And if I should ever go away, well then close your eyes and try to feel the way we do today. And then if you can remember, keep smiling, keep shining, knowing you can always count on me. For sure, that's what friends are for. For good times and bad times, I'll be on your side forevermore.
You may be seated.
That's what friends are for.
Well, you came and opened me, and now there's so much more I see. And so, by the way, I thank you. Oh, and then for the times when we're apart, well, then close your eyes and know the words are coming from my heart. And then if you can remember, oh, keep smiling, keep shining, knowing you can always count on me. For sure, that's what friends are for. In good times, in bad times, I'll be on your side forevermore. Oh, that's what friends are for. Keep smiling, keep shining, knowing you can always count on me. For sure, that's what friends are for. For good times and bad times, I'll be on your side forevermore. That's what friends are for. Keep smiling, keep shining, know you can always count on me. Well, for sure, 'cause I tell you, that's what friends are for. For good times and for bad times, I'll be on your side forevermore.
That's what friends are for.
Yeah.
Only for sure.
I don't need for sure, I don't need for sure.
That's what friends are for.
Well, welcome everyone. My name is Ken Fisher and I'm here to officiate at this service today as we say farewell to William Alexander Burt, or as most of you know him, Bill. This service today really is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for Bill's family particularly, and for all who have gathered, either here in the room or those who may be watching live stream. It's an opportunity for us to reflect on Bill's life. This service is also an opportunity for us to celebrate Bill's life, the way he lived his life, the things that he achieved along the way. and I think importantly to celebrate the way that his life has impacted your lives. And of course today is an opportunity for all of us to say a respectful and loving goodbye to him. So on behalf of Bill's family, I'd like to thank you for being here. I know that your presence here today, either in the room or virtually, out of love and respect for Bill, but also to be here for them at this time, is greatly appreciated. As Bill never married nor had any children of his own, he was particularly close to his siblings and extended family. And I'd like to read all of their names today because of their bond, their close bond together. So firstly, Bill's siblings and their partners, Helen and George, who is deceased, Judy and Paul, who's also deceased, Janet and Barry, Ian and Satoko, his nieces and nephews and partners, David and Gloria, James and Tracy, Bruce and Jenna, Alex and Tezuko, Alison, Louise and John, Rena and Sean, Anna and Stuart, and great nieces and nephews, Daniel, Bianca and Rachel, Taylor, Zoe and Marley, Randall, Winston and Douglas, Maddie and Charlie, Kai and Noah and Maya, or Mia. Sorry if I got those pronunciations wrong for some of you. After speaking with Bruce, who assisted me with preparing this service, it became clear to me that today we're mourning the loss of a strong and dependable man who really was dedicated to his family and his friends. Bill had a special gift. He was gentle, he was friendly, and he would connect really with anyone and everyone he met. And he lived his life with simplicity. Bill was a caring and supportive brother and uncle. He had a close bond and was really totally involved with his extended family's life. He was always at family celebrations and events and was well loved. Bill lived independently in his own unit in Waitara for many years. He suffered with various serious health issues, including diabetes. In 2007, he moved into Ruunga House Aged Care for more specialised care, and I know that his family have been happy with the support and care that he received there. The past 6 months have been particularly tough for Bill, as he has partial amputations on his foot, and I know that the family have gathered to be there for him and support him as much as possible. Bill passed away on Thursday the 24th of February at 7 a.m. and he was aged 83. As you can see from your order of service, we're very fortunate today to have a number of family members who are going to speak. Firstly, Bruce, Bill's nephew, will deliver the eulogy, and that will be followed by his brother Ian and his nephew Alex, who will pay tribute to him. Thank you, Bruce.
Thanks, Ken. I think you've said it all. Is that right? That's better. Hi, I'm Bruce Watkins. I'm one of Bill's nephews. I'd like to personally thank you for all coming today. The last couple of years have been pretty tough with COVID, but at least with the easing restrictions, we can all come together and remember and reflect on Bill's life. I was expecting to get a bit upset in the last page, not the first one. I contributed only a very small part to Bill's life. However, Ian and Alex, who are speaking after me, will no doubt complete the picture. William Alexander Burt, Bill, or Uncle Bill as we knew him, was born on the 3rd of April 1938 at Claremont Private Hospital in Potts Point. He was Annie and Alex's firstborn son. He was welcomed to their home at Killara and Cathna Street by his 3 doting sisters, Helen, who was 6, and the twin sisters, aged 2, Judith and Janet. His younger brother Ian wouldn't pop out for another 7 years, and Bill and Ian would form an inseparable bond that continued his entire life. From the moment he was born Bill lit up the room with his warm smile. When asking people to tell me about Bill, the resounding answer was that he was such a kind and genuine person. As Alec, his dad, went off to war, Bill joined his mum and sisters at a property in Mittagong. While the war raged in Europe, Bill and the twins roamed free, riding horses, and Helen unfortunately had to attend school. As a youngster, Bill boarded at Glenfield Park School, and at the age of around 16, he began work at a company called Spurways, where he proudly boasted 40 years of loyal service as a machine operator and was a much-loved employee. In 1965, he became the proud godfather to David Watkins, the eldest of his nieces and nephews. Bill devoted the best years of his life to his mum and dad. He especially lived for his mum, Annie. Bill continued to live with them, taking care of them, until Annie passed away in 1989 and Alec in 1994. He then moved into his own two-bedroom unit at Park Avenue, Waitara. Bill was a keen model train enthusiast and had an elaborate handcrafted set which he absolutely adored. This developed his love for travelling on steam trains when the opportunity arose. He enjoyed his first trip overseas to Hawaii with his sister Janet and brother-in-law Barry. In the years that followed, Bill loved to holiday on cruise ships and often spoke about the trip that he took with Ian around New Zealand, of which I was reminded of a model of the actual cruise ship that took pride of place on Bill's desk at Wahroonga House. Ian did comment that it was a full-time job keeping an eye on Bill, but I'm wondering who was keeping an eye on Ian. As a young boy, Bill loved his toy cars, with his sisters remembering they used to play with them for hours. As he grew and eventually got his licence and he got his own car, the cars that Bill owned, he meticulously detailed every single weekend. Not a square inch was unwashed or unpolished. Unfortunately, an accident in Ian's van one day put paid to his driving days, not to mention the van. Bill's attention was drawn from the road by three lovely ladies walking by. Sounds like Bill. No conversation with Bill was ever complete without him interrogating you about your own car. He always asked which car I'd driven down to see him, whether it was the black Suzuki or the red Toyota, how the car was going, and most importantly, when the rego was due. Then he'd move on to ask about G's car. He'd then ask how Marley was going. Was she driving? How's the car going? And finally, asking how Zoe's motorbike was going. And he couldn't quite understand why she wasn't driving a car. It was a conversation repeated often. Bill had this amazing ability to connect with people. Sometimes those people didn't really appreciate his willingness to chat, but eventually most, if not all, would be won over, and there it would start. He would disarm you with his laughter, his enthusiasm, and that infectious smile. Bill was interested in whoever he was with, remembering details of past conversations, always asking questions. I love that about him. He truly cared. Bill's brain was as sharp as a tack. He had an unbelievable memory for people's birthdays and their phone numbers. He knew when he had appointments for all the specialists without prompting. He knew what and where all his medications were due to be taken, which must have been a joy for the people looking after him. People would kill for a brain like his. Without fail, all of us would receive a phone call from Uncle Bill on our birthdays. Bill would always be up for a chat, asking what we were up to, who we were dating. It took him a while to understand what was going on with G. And most importantly, what car you were driving. Not only demonstrating his love for you, but his interest in your life. God forbid if someone didn't take his birthday call, because he'd be on the phone quick smart to me in an absolute flap. Everyone would agree Bill loved a party, whether it be a beer or his favourite red wine. At someone's birthday, a wedding, or at the club, he'd surely make his way to the dance floor. Bill's favourite song, and one that would cause him to jump to his feet and dance, was by the Proclaimers, 500 Miles. There's no accounting for taste. Having no kids of his own, he treated us nieces and nephews as his kids. Every year, as youngsters, our excitement would build as Easter approached. A lifetime member of the Royal Agricultural Society, he absolutely loved the Royal Easter Show. As kids, a trip to Killara was not complete without a sneak peek in the press, in the linen press, which by March or April was chockers with show bags to be divvied up between the nieces and nephews. Bill would start asking me in July what details were in place regarding the Royal Easter Show. He was nothing if not organised. His biggest gripe in later years, as his mobility suffered, was that he was insistent on me getting him an electric wheelchair just for that occasion. All I could think of was how many people he was going to run over. Needless to say, we never did. Easter was a biggie, but by far the biggest was Christmas. For Bill, Christmas was an all year round event. He'd start buying presents in January. He absolutely loved the act of giving. Each Christmas as kids, his gifts were always a highlight. Often there was a ceremonious joint opening between the nieces and the nephews, as the presents he'd bought were similar, if not identical. I'm pretty confident that no Burt, Knock, Watkins or Streeter isn't now without a complete spanner set or three. In early 2017, Bill was no longer able to properly manage on his own at Waitara, and the very difficult decision was made to place him into respite until we could find some permanent living arrangements. It was at that time that I was asked to take the reins from Uncle Barry Knock, who looked after Bill. I felt honoured, and I had such a sense of responsibility. I wanted to look after Bill the same way he'd looked after Annie, his mum. Talk about setting the bar high. Uncle Barry had done a brilliant job managing Bill's affairs for decades. Uncle Barry was responsible for the purchase of Bill's house back in 1984, I think it was. His financial affairs, arranging Bill's cruises and holidays, and generally keeping an eye on him, which wasn't easy, and ensuring he was looked after. Thank you, Uncle Barry. I hunted around for a nursing home for Bill, and having looked high and low, I came across Wahroonga House. When I walked through the front doors, I immediately felt this was the place for Bill. I met with Melissa. She showed me around, and at the time it had a magnificent train set, and that clinched the deal. And within a week, Bill was their newest resident. The people at Wahroonga House, without exception, have been absolutely wonderful and completely professional. But more than anything, they've been so loving and compassionate towards Bill. Melissa, Sandy, Jane, Deborah, Pramila, Wendy, Peter, Michael, David and Patrick, and that's it. If I've forgotten someone, I'm so sorry. But you all held a very, very special place in Bill's heart. Mind you, there was this cleaner guy who Bill was forever complaining about, always putting the stuff back in the wrong spot. But even to him, I say thank you. Jane has already attached a plaque on the back of the chair where Bill used to sit at the coffee shop, which I think is absolutely lovely. Thank you. Bill and Ian, as I mentioned before, were inseparable. Bill idolised Ian. Growing up, they were never too far apart. Later, when I was involved with Bill, everything that Bill and I did together, most phone conversations that I had with Bill, and every time he found his way into a hospital, Bill would always ask me, "Have you spoken to Ian yet?" As long as Bill knew that Ian was aware of what was going on, everything was okay in Bill's world. The highlight of Bill's week, apart from the bus trips organised by Wahroonga House, was to go to the clubs with Ian, Helen, Max, and whoever else would turn up. His membership spread far and wide, from North Sydney, Mooney, Hornsby, Magpies, Chatswood. But most importantly, it was where some lifelong friendships were made. One of those was a remarkable woman, Roma Benny. They met at Magpies in 2007 and quickly became friends. Even with Roma's enormous family commitments, she still made time to take Bill shopping, take him to his medical appointments, and help to pull his pants up when they'd inevitably fall to his feet. And just was a great friend, thank you. They also enjoyed a wonderful cruise together in Vanuatu, Noumea. Roma knew the particular type of toothpaste Bill liked and his love for Burt. When Bill had a joke to tell, he loved to tell everyone. There was this one joke he told me a couple of times, and he'd give the punchline away halfway through the joke. At the end of it, he was in fits of laughter. I still couldn't quite get the joke, but I couldn't help but laugh along nonetheless. All that said and done, he had an amazing sense of humour, and I loved listening to him laugh. Even when things weren't going quite to plan, he still had this funny way of making me laugh. I can recall us waiting in the waiting room to see Dr. Dean, his urologist. Bill had just been fitted with an SPC, and we were there for a checkup. The waiting room was half full, but deathly silent, and we were sitting at the back of the waiting room. All of a sudden, I heard this quite enormous fart, and I turned to Bill and asked if he needed to go to the toilet. Quick as a wink, he looked at me with that cheeky smile and said, "Not anymore, Bruce." We found our way to the toilet in the corridor, we got cleaned up, and we were back before we were called in. Nothing more was said. I must have done an okay job because we headed to the club for a drink after that. I must admit I needed it. I won't go into Bill's hearing issues. I hear a collective sigh. Needless to say, it always made me laugh when I was on the phone to Bill and he'd ask me, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me?" He couldn't quite grasp that all we wanted to do was for him to hear us. Bill just accepted me, and I loved our relationship. In going through some papers, Lou, one of Bill's nieces, came across a song written for Bill by his colleagues when he was working at Spurways on one of his birthdays, which I think you would agree echoes what we all know and love about Bill, and it goes like this. Once Bill had a flair for canoeing. At rowing, he was quite a wow. He took girls all over the harbour. We wonder where those girls are now. Our Bill has a wonderful nature. He's so happy and carefree and gay. The boys in the factory just love him. He's helped their production this way. Now we've come to the end of our ditty. Happy birthday, we'd all like to say. Good health and good luck to our William, for this is his very own day. Bill, in my mind, he never really aged, unlike the rest of his siblings. He was and always will be Uncle Bill, the Uncle Bill that we'd known and loved our entire life. I think of his infectious smiling face, his laugh and his enthusiasm that belied his age. I loved him and felt honoured to have been involved in his life in just some small way. We are all better off for having known Bill in our lives. I know on Thursday morning, when he passed away peacefully, that Annie, his mum, would have held her arms out to welcome Bill into her amazing, loving embrace, and Bill would have been happy. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. The bond between brothers is impeccable, unique and timeless. I'm Ian Burt, the youngest of 5 siblings, and sadly we are here today to say farewell to our brother, William Alexander Burt, known as Bill, Billy, Willie, and the old boy. I know you all have your special memories of Bill, but I wanted to take this time to share a few words of mine. Bill has always had a wicked sense of humour. He has one of the biggest hearts I know, most amazing memory. Some of you may not know this, but at the age of 3, Bill suffered peritonitis pneumonia. And died 3 times and survives. He was a real fighter and determined to live. His determination was apparent when a family friend told Bill that he had a galah, that he could teach the galah to speak. And so Bill would lie on the front veranda and lay there for hours saying, "Hello, Joe, hello, Joe, hello, Joe," till one day Keith Smith, the next door neighbour, came in and said, "You know, Alec, I think you've left the record player on. Can you go and check it?" The bloody guitar never spoke. When Bill was a kid, he loved a bicycle and loved riding everywhere. He really wanted a trailer on the back of his bike. So together we built a trailer with an old fruit box and put the thing together with an axle and took the wheels off a tricycle, and he had his bike, and he drove this bike everywhere. He was so happy, he smiled everywhere. Then later on, or at some stage, I think not quite before or after, he used to push me around a pedal car, which is made of steel, no protection, and he loved smashing this thing into a wall. And of course, he didn't realise that I'm the person inside getting hurt. But anyway, we survived, and he jived and he laughed. He never stopped laughing about any of that, even when he smashed into the wall. He was thought to be absolutely hilarious, and I would never stop him because watching him laugh, giggle, is something I've always cherished. Later in life, Bill's passion moved to steam trains and cars. Bill took pride in his car, washing it every week, as Bruce said. And the topic of conversation in Bill's mind was inquire about your current car, which one you had, etc., what type of car you had before, and always concerned about everyone whenever he could say. He just asked us. And if he ever heard of an accident or saw something on television, an accident, he would ring me up to see if I was okay or the whole family had been in this accident. So he was pretty concerned about me 100% of the time. The Royal Easter Show was one of Bill's favourite things, as Bruce mentioned. He had an annual pass and two visitors pass, and which I organised for him and Helen back in the early 70s. And he used to lend this pass to people to go to the show. He never stopped talking about the show from the time it was finished and when we're going to go next year. He was all ready to go before the show even started, especially, and of course, during the last couple of years of COVID, there's so much we couldn't do together. When he went to the show, he'd come home with Bertie Beetle bags and give them to the girls and family, share recollections of what he saw and what was new and everything he needed to know about steam trains. More recently, I had to start taking him to Judy's health, taking the show, as he always insisted that we stay and watch the fireworks. We didn't realise after watching the fireworks, I got home about 1:30 in the morning. But he was very happy. One of Dad's friends, Joe Morrison, offered Bill a job when he was about 15 or 16. Joe Morrison owned the company which was Spurways, as Bruce mentioned, in Leichhardt. Mum and Bill would get up at 4 o'clock every morning to make his lunch, sandwiches, and then he'd go and catch a train, which took him about 2 hours to get to work every day. Whatever task you gave Bill, he was 100% dedicated. He loved it, he did. One afternoon, Mum received a call from Bill that had been caught up in a machine which ripped all his clothes off. And Joe Morris, the owner of the company, said, to my mother, I'll bring him home. And he refused to go home. He worked tirelessly until drove home. He insisted on staying until he finished the job for that day and caught the train home. Every Sunday, Bill would come around to my place, Wollonga, and help with the gardening. Mowing lawns. He loved mowing lawns. He had so many mowing parts available. He also always stayed Sunday roast, helping himself to seconds, big plates of desserts. Bill's healthy appetite, love of ice cream was evident. Even his last days, when Bruce and I were with him in the retirement village before he passed away, his main concern was having some ice cream. If you couldn't find Bill at home, you'd find him at the Ashford Lees Club around the corner from the place in Waitara where he lived. Everybody knew Bill. He knew them by first name, what car they drove, even the age of 83. His memory never faltered. He would sit in the same chair in the nursing home, cafe, and greet every person by name. The bus driver, David, would say, Bill, we're getting on the bus now, even though you had to book. He was on it every single time the bus went out. He was unique, generous, thoughtful. Bill had a retentive memory. He knew everybody's birthdays and their phone numbers. He remembered it. I think James said, did he have a diary? Never had a diary. Without fail, he would call you on the birthday, and you'd bloody hope he could remember to put his hearing aid on. Every Christmas, he would buy practical gifts wrapped him himself, sometimes twice. Even how much wrapping paper he used was right, just with a card with a name written on it. He'd personally drop off everyone's presents so they had something to open at Christmas Day. You can never have enough screwdrivers, as Bruce mentioned, or spanners and things, because he gave me hundreds of them. Even as Bill's health declined, he asked Bruce to ensure that still received gift from him. His generosity and love for his family was one of the most. For the past 40 years, Bill has called me every day to see how I am and if I'm going to come to see him or at home, at the RSL Club, renewed tickets, bottle of wine, more recently a nursing home. Now, whenever my phone rings, I think of him, and I wish I could have one more conversation with him. In honour of Bill, at the end of the proceedings, as Bruce mentioned, I'd like to see everybody to dance his favourite song. "500 Miles. When he went to a club or anywhere, the people recognised him, would play 500 Miles, or he'd ask them to play it. And he got up, even as recently as maybe last year, when he could hardly walk, he still got up on the dance floor and danced with any person on the floor. I miss you, Bill. You're truly a gentleman. Your memories lives in us. Love you very much."
Well, thank you for having me. That's going to be a hard act to follow, isn't it? You might hear a bit of repetition here. So anyone of us who knew Bill, repetition was always the thing with Bill. So apologies for saying a few things that have been there. Good morning. On behalf of William Alexander Burt, or more affectionately known as Bill, or to us, Uncle Bill's nephews and nieces, David, Bruce, Alison, James, Louise, Rena, and Anna, and myself, thank you for coming today. On what is a very sad and emotional time, I'm honoured and humbled to be asked to represent the cousins, and as you heard before, we were like children for Bill. The 5 siblings, Helen, Judith, Janet and Ian, and of course the reason why we're all gathered here today, Uncle Bill, have been in each other's life for over 76 years. A bloody good innings. As in all families, there have been ups and downs over the past 3/4 of a century, and I was reminded just last week with some lovely photos that Lou had sent through, how close and happy the kids were growing up, and you can see that in the service today, so obviously the photos there are incredible. This is how I hope everyone here in attendance will choose to remember Uncle Bill. Alas, as has already been mentioned, this is not the first time we've lost someone in our close-knit family. We lost my father, George, some 34 years ago, and then our grandparents, Anne, followed by Alec, and then of course Uncle Paul 17 years ago. We are, however, blessed that both Uncle Barry and Sotoko are here with us today. Sorry. Both Uncle Barry and Auntie Sotoko have cared and looked after Bill's welfare over the years, being, as Bruce had mentioned, financial guidance and stewardship, or caring for Bill, as Uncle Ian said, every Sunday, and putting up with him having seconds and thirds at the family dinners. Thank you both so much for your love and care for Bill. It's pretty apt, this one. I've been thinking over and reflecting over the last week, the best way to sum up Uncle Bill. Usually crying, or most certainly with a tear in my eye. And the best I could come up with is an absolute bloody legend. Uncle Bill did not have one bad bone in his body and never spoke ill of anyone. He was truly one of the most genuine and caring people I have ever had the pleasure of knowing, as I'm sure you would all agree. In recent years, he was not as mobile as he had been, which I know frustrated him. However, I remember when I was very young, his energy, his strength, and his character. He was always willing to do the heavy lifting, be it mowing the lawn, as Uncle Ian said, clearing rubbish away, driving anyone and everyone around, and just being there to lend a hand. Don't get me wrong, I'll put a bit of a different swing on this with Bruce and Uncle Ian. At times, Uncle Bill did frustrate the hell out of me. At the time, I thought these were silly questions. Unfortunately, I did not have the luxury of hearing aids, as my dearly departed dad George did. He just used to turn them off, and that would act as his earplugs. This was not only effective blocking out Uncle Bill's questions, but it also proved to be very effective in blocking out my mum's, Helen's, questions and chatter, as Dad called it, or bliss. If anyone here knows my mum, you'll totally get what I'm trying to say. Hearing aids. I know that Bruce and Uncle Ian discussed Bruce's hearing. Ever seen a couple of siblings try to carry out a conversation without their hearing aids? Welcome to my world. However, I digress. The questions on what car I or someone in the family was driving, where it was parked, was it in the garage, etc. However, as I now reflect on this at this time, what seemed repetitive questions was in fact because he cared and he had a bloody great memory. Uncle Bill loved to go out, as the guys before me have said, to the club, Easter show, or Christmas, anywhere really. I remember the joy he had when he found my mobile number again. Not that he lost my mobile number, I changed jobs and he didn't have my mobile number. It didn't stop him still calling the person who'd taken over my role and having a chat with them on a regular basis. He loved to chat. He would call me each week just to check in about the club, the Easter show, if I was working, when we would be catching up. In recent years, my family had the privilege of having Uncle Bill over to our house for Christmas and to see the absolute joy on his face when he popped those crackers and he put on that crazy, silly paper hat. It made my day. Pretty sure he got this from his mum and dad, because early memories of me, I remember Grandma and Grandpa always having those hats on at Christmas Day at our family Christmases. He would keep it on all day and would be still wearing it when I dropped him back to his unit, or more recently, Wahroonga House. The last time I dropped Uncle Bill off, the Christmas just gone at Wahroonga House, he had to have a rat test before entering. He still had his silly paper hat on, and the nurse commented that it suited him. And he must have enjoyed himself during the day, because he was swaying a lot more than he usually did. Without fail, Uncle Bill would always make sure everyone had a Christmas present and would deliver them when he could drive to everyone's house to put under the Christmas tree. It didn't matter that I had 10 identical screwdriver sets, and they'll last me a lifetime. All my boys had 18, so 3 each, of the same socket sets that were also given to the boys every year. It was always the thought that counts. I am truly thankful, however, and relieved that the reins of delivering the Christmas presents and choosing them fell to Bruce. I was running out of room to keep all the tools. I can say with certainty the bottles of wine, the scotch for Mum, definitely went to good use and have been drunk in a timely manner. I know I will miss him, as I know everyone here will as well. I don't think it will really hit me until next Christmas, as my oldest son said to me when I shared the news with Uncle Bill's passing. Christmas will never be the same again, and I think everyone has special memories in our family of Christmas days with Uncle Bill. Right, to the cousins pulling together. Ali, thank you so much for being here. Sorry it's under these circumstances. To Anna, Lou, Rena, thank you so much for helping Bill behind the scenes with everything that's been going on today. To David, James and Bruce, to help carry, and Stuart, to help carry Uncle Bill into his last resting place. Well, not last resting place, but at least into him. Got to tell you, I didn't realise he's that bloody heavy. Lastly, it would be very remiss of me, on behalf of the cousins, to not thank the incredible dedication, love and support that Bruce has shown Uncle Bill over the years, but more so recently. As all the siblings show their signs of ageing and not as young as they used to be, the mantle is passed down from me, from your siblings and from your cousins. Thank you. I'm proud that you are my cousin. It is funny to think that in a time of sorrow and reflection, that yet again Uncle Bill is the centre and the catalyst in bringing everyone together. Today, although a very sad day, it is also a day of happiness. It will be when we get to Clara Golf Club and have a beer or three. It is a time for everyone to think of and remember Uncle Bill and the joy he brought into every one of our lives. To finish, a motto that I embraced during the pandemic from a truly remarkable individual, not unlike Uncle Bill. Tomorrow is a good day. For all of us that are finding it difficult at the moment, the sun will shine and the clouds will go away. Sir Captain Tom Moore, rest in peace, Uncle Phil.
Thank you, Alex, and Ian and Bruce as well. We're now going to take a few moments for some quiet reflection, and of course this is an opportunity for all of us just to sit and think about everything that's been said about Bill in this service, but as well for you that have known him all of your lives, for some, and for others with all of your shared experiences over the years. It's an opportunity for you just to be present with your own thoughts and memories of him, and the family have prepared a photo tribute for us to enjoy. Thank you.
I'll be seeing you in all the old familiar places that this heart of mine embraces all day through. In that small cafe, the park across the way, the children's carousel, the chestnut trees, the wishing well. I'll be seeing you in every lovely summer's day, in everything that's light and gay. I'll always think of you that way.
I'll find you in the morning sun, and when the night is new,
I'll be looking at the moon, but I'll be seeing you.
I'll see you in that small cafe, the park across the way, the children's carousel, the chestnut trees, the wishing well.
I'll be seeing you in every lovely summer's day, in everything that's light and gay. I'll always think of you that way. I'll find you in the morning sun, and when the night is new, I'll be looking at the moon, but I'll be seeing you.
I'll be seeing you, I'll be seeing you.
Smile, though your heart is aching. Smile, even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you'll get by if you smile. Through your fear and sorrow, smile, and maybe tomorrow you'll see the sun come shining through for you. Light up your face with gladness, hide every trace of sadness, although a tear may be ever so near. That's the time You must keep on trying, smile. What's the use of crying? You find that life is still worthwhile if you just smile.
Though your heart is aching, smile even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you get by.
If you smile through your fear and sorrow, smile, and maybe tomorrow you'll see the sun come shining through for you. Light up your face with gladness, smile, hide every trace of sadness, although a tear may be ever so near. That's the time you must keep on trying, smile. What's the use of crying? You find that life.
As I bring this service to a conclusion, I'd like to, firstly, on behalf of the family, invite you to join with them for some light refreshments. They're going to be gathering family and close friends at the Kalara Golf Club, and I know that they'd be grateful if you could join with them there. Also, as we leave the chapel in a moment, the family have asked that I leave the curtains open so that if anybody would like to come forward and just pay your last respects to Bill as you leave the chapel, please feel free to do that. Although I didn't know Bill personally, as I was listening to just a little bit of his story the other day, talking to Bruce, and of course everything that's been mentioned here, didn't take me long to realise that he was a pretty amazing guy, much loved, strong and resilient, worked a way forward in his life for himself, but of course for others, the way that he loved and connected with particularly his siblings and family. As we've heard, of course, today is an opportunity for us to reflect and to celebrate and to say goodbye. But it's also an opportunity for all of us who remain to not just think of Bill in the context of the past, but to also think of him in the context of our lives. In other words, what have we learnt, or what can we learn from him? And I'm sure you're asking yourself that question already. Really, whatever it is that comes to your mind today as you think of Bill, those things, those qualities, those characteristics, the values by which he lived, those things, each one of them are his legacy to us. So today we commit the body of William Alexander Burt to the place prepared for it, that ashes may return to ashes and dust to dust.
When I wake up, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who wakes up next to you. When I go out, yeah, I know I'm gonna be the man who goes along with you. If I get drunk, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who gets drunk next to you. And if I heaver, yeah, I know I'm gonna be the man who's heavering to you. But I would
Stand and feel free to come forward, leave the chapel or have a dance.
500 more to be the man who walked 1,000 miles to fall down at your door. When I'm walking, yes, I know I'm gonna be the man who's working hard for you. And when the money comes in for the work I do, I'll pass almost every penny on to you. When I come home, oh, I know I'm gonna be the man who comes back home to you. And if I broke, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who's growing over you. But I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more just to be a man who walks I'm lonely, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who's lonely when I'm you. And when I'm dreaming, well, I know I'm gonna dream about the time when I'm with you. When I go out, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who goes along with you.